Good afternoon, my name is Daniel Robinson and I'm here interviewing Richard Layton from WeCreate. How do you know that your logos are the same as anyone else's?
Okay, for what we did is when we developing our sort of first brand, we went on the intellectual property website, which is run by the government. I think it's ipo.gov.uk. It's a really complicated website. It could be actually a lot easier than it should be, but if you can find the right page, there's a section where you can search to see if anyone has registered that trademark. So for instance, the trademark that we registered was vagrant, so we typed in the search vagrant and then it searched that, and then it brings up kind of if had anyone kind of had or hadn't. Fortunately no one had kind of registered it. Someone had registered it previously, but it had expired, so it kind of tells you if some people had before, but whether it was still active, because you have to re-register every 10 years. But I mean, if someone has, it's not necessarily, it doesn't mean that you can't register your trademark, because there's actually there's about 36 or 37 different trademark registrations. So there's three main trademark registrations for clothing. So providing that no one had registered vagrant in those classifications, then you could still register. But obviously, you know, if you wanted to run another service, I don't know, sort of, you know, if you wanted to run a pet shop called Vagrant, you know, obviously if someone had already registered that wouldn't affect us because we're a different service. So that's kind of the best way to go about. Another way is simply kind of going on Google and typing in vagrant or vagrant clothing and see what comes up kind of initially, to see if anyone is kind of using something similar, and then check and back that up. But it cost us around £300 to kind of register the trademark, and it took about 4 or 5 months in total. You just have to fill out a fairly simple sort of 3 or 4 page sort of form, really, where you attach the trademark that you want to register, list the classifications you want to register them in, and then you just have to correspond a few times with the people at the intellectual property office. But you know, they're really helpful and really useful. I mean, the only sort of bad thing is that you can obviously you have to pay to register a trademark, and it's not guaranteed, and you have to wait for a set period. They have to assess it for a couple of months, and then they have to then put it in what's called the public domain. So they put your trademark in a trademark journal, and that goes out to the public. And if anyone sort of sees it and thinks, well, that's like my trademark, they can object, and if they object, then you know, the trademark. So it's kind of like a £300 gamble. But from my experience of registering a couple of trademarks now, providing you search on Google and on their website, if nothing comes up, usually you know.
How many sales you got to make to keep your business up and running?
It depends. I mean, it depends what your overheads are. I mean, if you've got really high overheads, you know, if for instance if it's costing you £1,000 a month to run a shop, and you know, pay all the utilities and the rates, then you need to make enough sales to cover that and then generate you a profit. But I mean, if you're entrepreneurial enough and you're able to get your sort of your overheads as low as possible, then you only kind of need to really generate enough sales to pay yourself. So I mean, initially when you set up a business, you can't think, well, from day one I'm going to make £1 million a year, because obviously you have to build up to that. But if you think, well, I'm happy just to make a few £100s a week at the moment, just try and make sure that your overheads are as low as possible, and that you can make, you know, if you're sort of turning over £300-400 a week, that's enough to kind of give yourself a small wage and cover any costs that you incur from selling.
Do you sell name clothes, or is it just?
In the shop that I run, they are branded. They are sort of branded clothes, but all the designs that are sold through the WeCreate project are designed by local young designers. So the brands are unknown. So it's kind of, we kind of are stocking brands like G-Star or like Diesel or people like that. The thing is, at the moment, people don't know those brands. So if they came into the shop and looked at them, they wouldn't think that you're selling branded clothing, but that's because they don't know the brand and stuff. But obviously in the future, 10 years down the line, a lot of the brands that we're selling now will be really sort of big, that's what we want to do. We want to help and support little unknown designers at the moment to get to that stage. So.
Do you like the clothes that you sell?
Generally. I mean, I'm not very fond of the girls' clothes because they don't really fit very well. But no, sort of a lot of the designs in there I think are great. Some of the designs aren't necessarily for me, but it's not about kind of what I want. And all the designs within there are sort of, they've all got their target markets, whether it's kind of skaters or snowboarders, or sort of indie kids, or sort of people kind of into different things. So some of the things aren't for me, but I can appreciate a lot of the designs in there, and I can see how they're saleable, and that's to someone sort of into the market that they're going for, and that's the most important thing, really.
Do you know many people who have been on the fashion course and made their own business?
Yeah, I mean, sort of the project supports loads of people, sort of either people that have got ideas that they want to go to sort of college and to university to kind of study, or supports people who've just graduated from university. I think the difficult thing about university is after studying for 3 years, kind of once you leave university, you've no longer got any help and support, and if it's very difficult to go and kind of get a job because you haven't got the commercial experience that you need. If you want to set up your label because you're an unknown designer, a lot of shops won't sell you because nobody knows your brand, and if no one knows your brand, people won't necessarily buy it, and they can't make enough money from you to justify them stocking you. So.
Do you like what you've put together, your business?
I do like. I think sort of there's an array of good services. I've kind of nailed everything down now. I definitely know what the company's sort of doing and where it's looking to go in the future. I've got some really good backers and supporters and partners. It's just a case of now just working through all the problems, because what you'll find is kind of running a business is generally 95% of the time is kind of just solving problems and coming up with solutions and developing new ways of doing things to tackle and to provide social problems and issues, and provide products and services to sort of counter that, really. So it is a good organisation, but it's very difficult doing things on your own. But now I've got kind of people with me and behind me and sort of backing me. That kind of spurs you on to make sure that you do a good job to get your organisation to where you want it to be.
Yeah, and do you think one day that your clothes will be like as big as Lacoste and stuff like that?
I mean, I suppose that's the idea. I mean, that'd be great, really. I mean, because that would ultimately prove that the project's a success, really, and the idea is that without that if we have someone who goes on and becomes the next Lacoste, someone like that, then if the project's credited for that, then it will be recognised that the project's really good, and we'll get more kind of help and support. So, but that would be great.
And how much do you sell your t-shirts for?
Products in the shop generally range from as little as £1, kind of, to actually like 50p a pound, like for pin badges and some small accessories, up to the most expensive thing, I think probably hooded tops, like hooded zipper tops, about £35. So it's relatively quite kind of cheap, really. So it's kind of I mean, it has to be sort of slightly cheaper than maybe sort of some of the big stores, because they are sort of unknown brands, but not. But depending on how much money you've kind of got, you've got to sort of make sure that there are sort of products within the shop that kind of attract people are attracted to buy and can afford. So yeah, cool.
Well done.